Hello friend, I want to tell you about the Mazda MX-5 car. A year after its debut, the offer was joined by a coupe cabrio version with an electrically opening hardtop. In 2009, the Japanese presented the world with a facelifted version of the MX-5 NC. What has changed? First of all, the front grille, bumpers, headlights, and rear lights. These are the most important modifications. In the meantime, many limited versions of this model appeared in Mazda showrooms, such as 20th Anniversary, Miyako, Sport Black, or Venture Edition. From the late 80s to 2011, over 900,000 units of the Mazda MX-5 were produced. The choice of engines in sports cars is usually limited to 1, 2, or 3 versions at most. The same is true for the MX-5. It is true that it is difficult to call the Japanese Roadster a true sports car, but it is certainly not an ordinary car either. Many laymen, after their first encounter with this car, will consider it a real race car. But this statement is definitely an exaggeration. You can't even dream of the performance of a Porsche 911 Cabrio, and you won't be able to compete with the top versions of the BMW Z4, let alone the Mercedes SLK. Competing with the basic versions of these cars will definitely be a much better idea, but not if you decide on the 126 horsepower 1.8-liter engine. Unfortunately, this one has nothing to do with sports. I will leave the sprint from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 9.9 seconds without comment. Fuel consumption? In city traffic, you will use from 10.5 to 11.5 L/100 kilometers, depending on the conditions and driving style. A much better choice would be the 160 horsepower 2.0-liter engine. Its more powerful version was offered only in the USA. In this case, the first 100 appears on the speedometer after 8.5 seconds with automatic transmission, 7.9 seconds in cars before modernization, or 7.6 seconds in models after facelift. Fuel consumption? A slight excess of 12 L/100 kilometers during city use is not a major problem. Failure rate? Owners of this model generally do not know what serious engine problems are. The exception are models in which the bearings rotate. Fortunately, this failure affects only a handful of cars. From time to time, however, minor equipment failures occur, including the thermostat or lambda probe. The engine is placed longitudinally in the front, and the rear-wheel drive is the perfect combination in such a car. The suspension, multi-link system at both the front and rear is set up quite stiffly, thanks to which the car drives wonderfully. But on more potholed roads, it is not so rosy. The Mazda MX-5 engines can work with 3 gearboxes, 6-speed automatic, 5 or 6-speed manual. Safety? It is at a quite decent level. In the Euro NCAP crash tests, the car received 4 stars. By today's standards, it is true that it is not the highest shelf, but it is not bad either. For years, Mazda has not been able to cope with rust, which appears to a greater or lesser extent in practically all models of this brand. The MX-5 NC does not corrode at the same rate as the first-generation 6 model, but for your own peace of mind, I advise you to carefully inspect the entire undercarriage of the car, the bonnet, the trunk lid, the front and rear wheel arches, and the area around the door sills before purchasing. Roof leaks are also common. The reason? Water leaking through damaged seals and blocked drainage channels. Water often gets into the trunk as well. A thorough inspection of the suspension is also necessary, because such cars are not spared. Steering rods also do not like rough driving. I advise you to pay special attention to the shock absorbers. They leak oil sometimes. Another weak point is the catalytic converter, which qualifies for replacement quite quickly. The differential seal is not very durable. Be sure to check its condition. ABS sensors also do not have a very long life. Among the minor faults, it is worth mentioning the faulty switches for the electric windows. In addition, in some models, the windscreen and the soft roof lining spontaneously crack. The third-generation Mazda MX-5 after the first meeting arouses quite mixed feelings. The body styling is very successful and attracts many interested glances. Unfortunately, the interior is already quite Spartan and a bit too tight, but you will find here a few useful storage compartments, almost like in a family van. Don't count on a large trunk. In 150L you can really fit not much. You will also feel a sense of consternation while driving. Precise steering, rear-wheel drive, and excellent driving characteristics are features that will delight almost anyone who sits behind the wheel of the MX-5 NC. Unfortunately, after a longer drive, the suspension that is too stiff will start to bother you. Despite its advantages and disadvantages, it is hard not to like the car. After all, it is a roadster for quite reasonable money, which will not ruin you during visits to petrol stations. Thanks for listening to me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and rate my video. If you know of any problems with this car that I haven't mentioned, be sure to write about them in the comments.